Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of 5 Minute Fridays. So this may surprise many of you, but I am not a huge fan of New Year's resolutions. In fact, I really hate them. Studies show that about 60% of us make them each year, but about 80% of those resolutions fail by February, and sadly, only about 8% of us achieve them completely. Why is this? Well, here are a few reasons. 1, we want to achieve too many goals at one time. 2, we choose to make too big of a change to our habits, which we aren't ready for. And 3, we have resolutions that are too vague, such as I want to be rich or lose weight or be happy. Blah, blah, blah. Who doesn't want to be rich, thin, and happy? So coming full circle to why I'm not a big fan of resolutions, it's because of the high failure rate. I don't like creating a situation that is ultimately setting myself up for failure, which then means I'm going to beat myself up come February. Nope, not going to do it, and I don't want you to do it either. So what can we do? First, I would like you to consider reading an amazing book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. I actually listened to it in the car, so that's why I don't have a copy to hold up, but I have put a link to the book in my blog post, so check it out. In a nutshell, James's theory is the following. You do not rise to the level of your goals, i.e., I'm going to lose weight this year. You fall to the level of your systems and habits. He says that if you change your habits literally in 1% increments, this is the only way that real change can occur. And I wholeheartedly agree. He says that just build a slightly better habit and let it compound for you day in and day out. But here's the most important part to think about. As with any compounding process, the greatest returns are delayed. So what does this mean? He uses an amazing analogy, which I will explain. He says if you walk into a very cold room that is around 25 degrees and there is an ice cube sitting on the table, even if you start heating the room a bit to 26 or 27 degrees, nothing's going to change with that ice cube. It's only once the room reaches 32 degrees that the shape of the ice cube is going to begin to change. So as we know, one of the biggest reasons we fail at achieving our goals is because people aren't seeing changes quick enough and they give up. This is where we go terribly wrong. As James points out, let's say we've made a habit change for about a month and we've been eating healthier, exercising more, but we still aren't seeing the change we want. Complaining about that is kind of like complaining about heating an ice cube from 25 degrees to 31 degrees and it not melting yet. It wasn't wasted work. We just haven't hit the threshold of what James calls the plateau of latent potential. We're building up potential energy and it feels like a plateau because we aren't seeing the changes we want, but then all of a sudden we cross that threshold for the change we're trying to make. Changing your habits is never wasted work, so be patient. Here's the next major concept he points out in the book. If we state our intention to implement a particular behavior, we are 2 to 3 times more likely to follow through. So for example, if you write down one sentence that says, I will exercise for 30 minutes on this day, at this time, and in this place, we are way more likely to actually follow through. Anyone who works with me knows I believe so strongly that if you schedule your exercise into your calendar and treat it like an important work meeting, you are far more likely to make it happen. Okay, so what have we learned here? If you do have some specific goals you want to work on in 2020, first, hone it down to 1 or 2 things that you really want to focus on. I call these macro goals. Second, we need to be less vague and more specific. If you break your bigger macro goals down into some mini goals, this is where the whole concept of the 1% changes comes in. Third, write it down. Writing things down creates intention that is far greater than words and thoughts just floating around in your head. Fourth, be patient and remind yourself of the ice cube analogy. The work you're doing isn't wasted. These small habit changes won't get you results overnight, but it most certainly is moving you closer to your macro goal. And fifth, check in with yourself regularly to stay on top of these habit changes. As you make one change and master it, then you build a slightly better habit. For example, let's say you have a big macro goal of getting healthier and losing a little weight. Perhaps one of the mini goals under this macro goal is to drink less alcohol. Let's say typically you have 2 glasses of wine every night. Maybe you start by saying, I'm going to have just 1 glass of wine each night. Once you master that and feel good about it, you up the game a bit and say, now I'm only going to have that 1 glass of wine every other night. You see where I'm going here. You make subtle changes and then you build upon them. If you keep working at it, you will naturally wean yourself to a place that you want to be, and which in this example very likely is contributing to the macro goal of getting healthier and losing weight. This to me is a way better way to approach making lifestyle changes than to say, for example, I'm not drinking for the month of January. While I'm not opposed to that idea because it's obviously great for your liver, ultimately come February, you are likely to go back to your old habits. So changing your long-term system is better than the short-term goal of cutting alcohol out completely, but only for 1 month. Make sense? Okay, so there are all sorts of journals and apps out there for this sort of thing, but let's be honest, we might use them for a hot minute and then we abandon. That's why I made this super easy one-page sheet. On here, you can pick 1 or 2 macro goals. Then you break them down into a couple of mini goals. And then the next thing that you're going to do are the actions or habits that you're going to create. Those are the little 1% changes we've been talking about. It's super easy. And I'm actually going to fill one of these out and give it to you as an example to get you started. So check out the link in the blog post to download your free sheet and to get you started on creating a few new habits this year. If you aren't linked to the blog post, just go to saltwaterwellness.com/blog and you will find it there. And again, I highly suggest you read James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. It's fabulous. So I hope my little grid I created and James's book are 2 tools you can use to create changes in 2020 that you can actually sustain. Please shoot me a message if you have any questions. And as always, thanks for watching.